Greetings, audiophiles and Mass Effect fans. Welcome to my reading of my fanfiction, After the Fall. This is a Mass Effect fanfiction, and as such, most of the characters and the universe belong to BioWare/EA Games. No copyright infringement is intended. However, the scenario and occurrences within this fanfiction are my intellectual property, so if you decide you want to share this with someone, credit me. Please. Part 27. After the Fall. Shepard sat curled on Garrus's lap. Her ship hummed musically around her. She had stripped off her armor, as had much of her crew. That crew, including Malik, whom they had collected from the Citadel where he had waited, sat with her. Across from them, in the closed medbay, the doctors worked on Kaidan, Rex, Vega, and Liara. While a full recovery was expected, the best doctors in the Victory Fleet had arrived to help. Shepard still felt uneasy. The fight was over, but she couldn't convince herself of that. She was like a trusty watchdog, unwilling to leave his master's side even after the danger had passed. Tali, whose suit was newly repaired and whose wounds were well patched up, sat beside Shepard and Garrus. Her hand rested in that of the young Turian, Bastian, who had come to the Normandy with the doctors and several other leaders, including the indomitable Admiral Ron, as well as Hackett. Shepard glanced sideways at her young quarian friend, smiling thinly. She felt thin, stretched to the point of breaking, but the pressure had been relieved. Somehow she was still whole. Joker limped up to the group, taking a seat at Shepard's other side. "I just got the reports back from the rest of the galaxy," he said, handing the pad across to Shepard. "Excellent." She took it, allowing herself to nestle into Garrus's strong arms to read. Before she did, she met Joker's eyes. "How's Edie?" The geth had been working with her. There wasn't much of the VI kid left in her system, not enough for it to form a personality, just a few stray bits of data. Funny thing is, she says she understood him a little bit while she was battling with him in the Normandy systems. Shepard's eyebrow rose. "She's not thinking that thing was correct, is she?" "Fuck no," Joker laughed. "But she told me she could see the part of him that was broken. Just a little, corrupt, irretrievable bit of data was all it took to turn him into a psychotic killer." "How is Edie handling that knowledge?" Shepard questioned. "At first she was a little alarmed, but then I reminded her that it's the same with humans. A few chemicals go out of whack, and we're in just as sorry of a state. But we don't have power over giant, ancient death machines." I think that put it in perspective for her. Still, she says she plans to run daily diagnostics on herself for any sign of her programming going bust. Shepard smiled. "She's a good person. You helped make her that way." Joker grinned as well. The first big smile Shepard had seen in a long time. It lit up the whole crew deck. "Well, I'm going to head back to her," he said, rising stiffly. Then he paused and took Shepard's hand for the briefest of moments, squeezing it gently. He did not speak. He did not need to. Then he let her hand go and shuffled away with his odd yet familiar gait. Shepard watched him, still remembering that smile and feeling the warmth his hand had left on hers. Maybe the fight really was over. She finally looked down at the pad Joker had given her. Garrus read over her shoulder. His mandibles flared with excitement. "The relays are up and running again! The Reapers and the rest of the galaxy have gone dead and been hauled into the various suns by the geth. Jacob, Arya, Balak, and the other leaders are planning to meet up with us as soon as we're ready to leave Sol." "They must be a little nervous to come here," Shepard chuckled. "I don't think any of us will trust the relays the same way again." "Jacob reports that the remaining quarians and geth have easily retaken Rannoch," Garrus read loudly. The crew around them cheered and Tali beamed. "Anything in there about Palaven?" Shepard asked, noting the eager look on Bastian's face. "Not specifically, but it seems that all the homeworlds will be easy enough to reclaim without any Reapers to worry about." "Don't forget some new homeworlds, too," Grunt spoke up. You owe a lot to the Krogan." "We won't forget it," said Kirrahe, with a respectful nod to the young warrior. Grunt smiled as well. It seemed that no one could contain happy expressions for long. Shepard tried to keep herself together. After all, some of her team were not out of danger yet. She glanced towards the medbay. Past the shuttered window she could see shadows moving. Human, Solarian, Asari, even a Krogan doctor had been brought in. Garrus read on, but Shepard barely heard him. Her mind, as ever, was busy. She had hoped that maybe, once everything was all over, her thoughts would be calm. Perhaps there would finally be no visions of blood and fire dancing through her vivid memory. It seemed that some things would always stay with her, no matter how many she saved. She wondered if Anderson would be proud of her. The thought made her want to cry. Then Chakwas appeared at the door of the medbay. She looked weary, but victorious. "They're all out of the woods now. It was touch and go with Kaidan, because of the strain that had already been put on his implant, but he'll pull through. He might be a little foggy for a while, but I believe he'll make a full recovery." Another cheer rose up from the crew. Shepard unfolded herself from Garrus's arms, though she still gripped his hand, leading him towards the medbay. Inside, the place was cramped with doctors, all celebrating. She looked up to meet the pale eyes of Cadell, who stood to the side, holding a datapad. He looked slightly uncomfortable, but triumphant nonetheless. Stone was there as well, speaking animatedly with the Krogan doctor. Shepard and Garrus forged their way past the elated medical staff to see the patients. She shook Rex's hand, reveling in the feeling of the bones in her hand, protesting his strong grip. She hugged Liara like a sister. They both laughed together at the simple relief of still being alive. Vega weakly punched her shoulder when she greeted him. "Good job, Lola. It seems like you really can dance. I think I'll get a new tattoo to celebrate." "Maybe my boot print on your ass?" she asked playfully. He laughed. "Maybe. At this point, I'd do anything you told me to, Commander." He saluted her smartly. "At ease, James." She squeezed his shoulders and walked over to where Kaidan lay. "He's still a bit groggy," Chakwas warned, coming up behind them. Garrus stepped back, allowing Shepard to greet her friend alone. "I don't want to overwhelm him," the Turian explained in a hushed voice when Shepard shot him a questioning glance. Carefully, Shepard slid Kaidan's hand into her own. His eyes were dark with bruises. He looked like he'd been in a fight and lost. His face was drawn and pale. Her memory, ever unhelpful, bombarded her with images of Kaidan having his head nearly beaten in by the elusive man's operative, Dr. Eva. That had been her fault too. Why had she brought Kaidan with her to the Citadel? Why had she brought any of them that could be indoctrinated? She'd put them in danger again. Yet, without Kaidan, they never would have stood a chance. Without her full team, she was just one soldier with a sniper rifle. Without them, she wasn't the hero of the galaxy at all. Tears threatened in her eyes. Kaidan slowly blinked to wakefulness. His eyes seemed glassy and distant at first, as though he wasn't seeing her. Then his expression cleared and he met her gaze. His eyes might have been the twins of her own, dark brown and seemingly fathomless. He licked his dry lips, parting them as though to speak, but only a whisper of breath came out. "Don't try to talk," Shepard soothed, her lip quivering. He shook his head with a small, determined jerk, then tried again. "Not one more," he said, then gazed intensely at her, his lips quirking into a lopsided smile. A tear did escape her eyes this time. He must have been able to hear her, her defiance in the face of the VI, her refusal to allow one more of her family to be killed. She brushed the tear from her cheek, sniffling. "That's right, Kaidan. Not one more." Excerpt from the personal log of the Shadow Broker. Being an account of the galaxy's actions after the Reapers were finally defeated, and the whereabouts of the hero, Commander Shepard, and her crew.
The Victory Fleet left the Sol systems and rallied with their own peoples shortly after the victory on the Citadel, which people are now referring to as the Shepard's Battle. Many returned home to their newly reclaimed planets to survey the damage. The Krogan have been most instrumental in rebuilding our worlds. They have been granted several uninhabited planets for their own to colonize, and they have been given a permanent seat on the new council. There have been some rumblings from the warlike race, but Rex, as well as his chosen leaders, many of them female, have easily stamped out the dangerous factions before any harm could be done. The quarians and geth have returned to Rannoch and have begun repopulating. The geth are now welcomed into the society. I have heard reports that the geth are even able to upload themselves into the suits of quarian volunteers to aid them in reclaiming their original immunities. Thessia, the Asari homeworld, was one of the most damaged, not only in terms of their cities and civilizations, but in their history and their faith. Much of the Asari culture has been threatened, and it is only by virtue of their longevity that some are alive to tell stories of their past and keep their future alive. With new information provided by the only living Prothean, the Asari are beginning to reassess their place in the galaxy, and are perhaps becoming more willing to see the younger race's ideas and ideals as valid. The population on Omega continues to thrive. None are certain how it fared so well during the Galaxy War, which is what some are calling the time when the Victory Fleet was trapped at Sol. But many place the credit firmly on the shoulders of the pragmatic Asari, Arya. Some complain of her brutality, but her tactical brilliance is undeniable, and she has been given endorsement by Commander Shepard to continue as the leader of the little asteroid, until such time as she should decide to step down. The Citadel remains in the Sol system. None of the races have the technology at present to remove it. However, many have banded together to help the humans guard the station. Everything but the basic structure is being destroyed. We can no longer allow ourselves to trust the station, which has been home of the Reapers for cycles innumerable. Once the station has been emptied, we will rebuild, and it is possible, perhaps even likely, that the Sol system will become a new hub of activity and commerce in the galaxy. I only hope the humans are ready for such a challenge. I, for one, believe they are. As for the famous Normandy and her crew, the renowned vessel flies still. Many of her crew has remained aboard, including James Vega, Steve Cortez, Jeff Moreau, Dr. Chakwas, Edie Moreau, Shepard's husband Garrus Vakarian, the geth called Malik, Samantha Trainer, the engineers Gabby, Kenneth, and Adams, Caden Lingo, and the Rachni known as Stone. Major Kirahi, while having returned to the SDG, has been known to frequent the Normandy, often going on missions with the human commander he seemed to greatly admire. Talizora Vest Normandy has made a home on Rannoch, but has yet to change her name. She is joined by her fiancé, the Turian Bastion. Talizora has also been seen visiting the Normandy and Earth. Her relationship with Commander Shepard remains a close one. The Krogan, Grunt, is currently the leader of his own small colony. Under the watchful eye of Ernot Rex and the rest of the galaxy, he has fathered several children, which seem healthier and stronger even than other Krogan offspring, if that is possible. He continues to be the most sought-after mate. He remains in contact with the Normandy, and has often been heard to publicly refer to Commander Shepard as his mother. While he made several sojourns to Thessia, Javik, the last living Prothean, has taken up residence on Earth. While many have reported him to speak often of going to the graves of his people and ending his own life, for the time being he seems content amongst the humans, and is still helping them rebuild. The ex-Cerberus scientist Cadell was given full pardon and allowed to go where he pleased. He has since disappeared. Dr. Liara Tassoni has retired and lives a quiet existence on Thessia. There have been reports that she has been seen aboard the Normandy as well, though I am certain she is only there to visit Shepard, as the two have remained close friends. Liara has done nothing of note since the war ended. Shepard herself has relinquished any and all positions of leadership outside that of commanding her ship. She may be an admiral, but she refuses to acknowledge the rank. She and her temporary council have disbanded in favor of more political candidates. We have yet to see how this new council will lead the galaxy in the years to come, but our future looks promising. Shepard and her Normandy still patrol the galaxy and eagerly fulfill even the smallest missions, whether it be transporting the few remaining Batarians to a new home, or mopping up groups of pirates, which are still common even after the war. The Normandy remains a frequent and welcome sight amongst the stars.
This is author Julian Greystoke. I would like to thank you all so much for listening to my recording of my fanfiction After the Fall. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope to do a video soon answering any questions you may have about this fanfiction, or just talking about Mass Effect. I plan to talk about how I got the idea for this fanfiction, and the things I wanted to get across when writing it. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments section, and I will try to answer them in that video. Thank you again for listening, and I hope to see you soon.